Ryan Fleming can help you chart out a course for your retirement with his intimate knowledge of financial planning and the airline industry. It's time for the Pilot's Advisor.
Thanks for joining us on the Pilot's Advisor today. Walter Storholt here alongside Ryan Fleming, the Pilot's Advisor at Retire Pilots. Check them out at retirepilots.com. On today's show, we're going to be talking about your biggest financial fears. We took an informal poll of listeners and clients to find out what their biggest financial fears are. And on this episode, we're going to explore the most common ones and talk about how they should be addressed in a retirement plan. You ready to talk about fears, Ryan? It doesn't all have to be doom and gloom.
I'll try not to make it about doom and gloom, but let's talk about the fears, and we'll talk about how to combat those fears, or just talk about the current situation and what it looks like in our lifestyle.
See, some advisors, Ryan, would save this topic to talk about in October and try and match it up with Halloween. But we realize that fears are a year-round thing. They don't just pop up in October. So any month is a good month to address fears that might be messing with you a little bit, especially when it comes to your finances or your future planning, all those kinds of things. It's important. So one of the top fears was running out of money before we die. And we've probably all heard that stat before, right, Ryan? Like, people worry about running out of money before they die more than they do dying itself. So how do you address that? How do you talk about it with your clients, first of all, and then how do you address it in a retirement plan?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I think most people out there have no clue, not even close, of how much money they need to save to produce income in retirement. And I'll throw the big number out there. For every $1 million you save at a safe withdrawal rate over 25 to 30 years, it's only going to spit out between $40,000 and $50,000 a year. And the other problem with that is, with inflation, things are costing a lot more than they used to. So what you can actually get and live off of with $40,000 to $50,000 a year is not nearly what it used to be. So we have some big planning issues that we need to talk about.
Yeah, it really kind of just encompasses the entire planning process, right? Like, getting everything working together is how you solve that problem and make sure that your money's going to last as long as you do.
Well, exactly. And that's why we have to look at taxes. We have to look at inflation. And if you miss either of those in your retirement income plan, you might be in trouble. And so that's why we have to constantly analyze a safe withdrawal rate so you don't run out of money in retirement, because you don't have the ability in many cases to go earn income like you did over the years prior to retirement. And that's why I always say the distribution phase is so much more complicated than it is just saving for retirement in the accumulation phase. And that's why it's so important to have an advisor that's helping you build out a retirement income plan, knowing where to get income from, when to do it. Complicated stuff.
Yes, complicated, but not when we involve you, Ryan. You help clear up any of these kinds of confusions. But that's not the only fear that people have either. Here's another one. We're kind of giving you the top 6 on the show today, by the way. Blowing through our entire nest egg to pay for our nursing home care. This one, I think, scares a lot of people. But unlike looking for a solution on the first one, it seems like the reaction is people just want to pretend that this one doesn't exist.
So Dave Ramsey says in all his podcasts and his books that procrastination is the worst form of self-sabotage. And I'm amazed when we talk about retirement how many people will just go bury their head in the sand and act like it's just going to go away. And it's not going to fix the situations where, the best time to invest money is now, always. But we have a big problem with long-term care insurance, how much nursing homes cost. And unfortunately, most people can't even afford long-term care insurance. So we go down this path of we're going to have to self-fund. And I see it with some of my clients right now where, you might be paying $8,000 a month for a nursing home. And yes, it will burn through your retirement savings. But you also, with the way that's set up, you're not going to get government aid until you blow through those assets. So this is a real fear, and there's not enough tools out there right now to combat this. So in a planning model, by not having talked about this or not having a plan, it can definitely blow up your retirement.
Good points there, Ryan. All right, so we're talking about biggest financial fears. Another one is that people fear paying more taxes than we have to pay. All we want to pay is our fair share, Ryan, and nothing more, right?
Well, and that's your duty to pay your fair share, or to pay the least amount of taxes as you can legally is your actual duty. I find this funny because, of course, this is a podcast for pilots. And the amount of pilots, and pilots historically have a reputation for being cheap, but the amount of pilots that I have as clients that are still trying to do their own taxes with TurboTax or whatever else, hire a professional. They're going to find something that's going to save you more money than you're doing right now. And I'm telling you, pilots don't have the same write-offs that we used to before the standard deduction, but a CPA is going to help you find stuff that you're not currently doing and stop doing TurboTax. We can help you get affiliated with a CPA firm that's going to help long-term planning. They're going to help us with tax strategies to get you in the best possible spot for retirement. Reach out to me. I will help you get involved with the people at Pilot Tax. They've been doing it for 30 years. They're outside of Indianapolis, and we can help you pay less taxes than you are right now.
That's great. Again, that is some fantastic resource for pilots. Again, that's Zach Smith of Pilot Tax. You can find out lots of good information about that by contacting Ryan. Integrate that financial plan and that tax plan, and you can eliminate that worry of paying more taxes than you have to. So if you want more information about that, again, retirepilots.com, and you can call or text Ryan at 843-475-3038. All right, so we're through 3 of these fears so far, Ryan. Here's a 4th one, not having anything left to pass on to the kids. This applies to some people, right? Some are like, I'm happy to let that check bounce, that last one, right?
It is so funny because you get some people that are going to blow up their own retirement to pay for their kids' school, and then you get others like, I am not leaving anything to those little you-know-whats. And you can't make the assumption because it's so funny. You have to sit back and ask some questions and see where people are sitting. And this actually makes me think back to what I've said many points of, is we don't think about the distribution phase of retirement and how we want to make sure the government's not one of the main beneficiaries of your assets, to make sure that it's your family. And there's a lot of strategies to protect money and make sure that happens. And this is why you need an advisor to make sure you're putting your money in the right pots. So when you do pass on, that money actually goes to your kids or your family or wherever you want it to go. And in many cases, we haven't done that planning, and I see it all the time where people are losing their assets, or those assets are going into probate or to the government because they didn't properly plan in the future. And we're talking estate planning, we're talking about correct beneficiary designations, we're talking about putting your money in pots or vehicles that are going to pass on those assets to your family tax-free. Lots of strategies out there. You got to make sure you're doing the right stuff. Reach out.
Hey, if you're ready to have clarity and thrive in your retirement, you're in the right place, and I've got another resource for you to check out. Go to retirepilots.com and look right there on the homepage. You'll be able to click Get My Free Toolkit. What this is going to do is help you get for free Ryan's Retirement Toolkit. This is going to include his 2 books, The Pilot's Advisor and Pilots Retire Early, revealing the 9 critical decisions when retiring and the 7 lessons to save your retirement. Not only does it include the books, but lots of other goodies packed into this free toolkit that'll be sent to you ASAP. It's a great starting place for any pilot to begin their retirement journey. Go to retirepilots.com. Another big financial fear, Ryan, among a lot of retirees and pre-retirees, and one that we've heard before, is just it's a little bit softer of a fear, right? It's not, I'm going to run out of money before I die, or I'm going to go into the nursing home and run out of money completely. This one's a little bit more subtle, but it's just as in the back of our minds maybe as some of these other ones. And that's being forced to reduce the quality or level of our lifestyle. People are just a little worried. Like, what if I can't replace that income in retirement, and I got to kind of readapt to a new way of life and take a step back, and that can be a hard adjustment.
I think this is a real fear. I mean, with inflation coming back, we've had historically low inflation for years and years and years, like less than 3%. And now with inflation coming to the forefront, we realize that our buying power is drastically reduced, and we have to account for inflation in that plan. And another thing, when we talk about reducing the quality or level of our lifestyle, for pilots, I think about this all the time, where many families aren't properly protected. And what I mean by that is a couple things. A pilot has to have his health, or he can't go make that income. And in many cases, if you lose your license, you're not going to have the same income that you were used to. And a lot of airlines, and they're all a little bit different, but you're going to be working off of maybe 50 or 60% of what your family had been used to from an income standpoint. There's some insurances out there that are going to try to bridge the gap, but at least then you could actually go out and get another job and figure out how to care for your family. When I read this and I talk about losing a level of your lifestyle or your quality of life, I think about those unfortunate circumstances where you might have a death in the family. So let's say a pilot's the primary breadwinner, and unfortunately there's been a lot of heart attacks coming. We've had 4 crew members at FedEx pass in the last 3 weeks. So the first 3 weeks of January, 4 crew members gone. And what I think about every time I hear something like that is, how are the families protected? So your family might be used to living a lifestyle of $200,000, $300,000 a year, and if you haven't protected your family in the right way, overnight they might be trying to live off of $50,000 or $60,000 a year. Drastic change, and I don't think you want that for your children. And what I would say is, if you don't know how your family's protected, or you haven't thought about these catastrophic events and what would happen, you probably need to reach out to us and see if you're insured, if your family's protected, and different strategies on how we can make sure that that's not something that could happen to your family.
Definitely a big fear, that change in quality of lifestyle or level of lifestyle. And you laid out some great ways, Ryan, that can happen on multiple fronts. Like, there's multiple ways that fear can be realized. And I think that might be what makes it one of these top fears, is this, like, you got to kind of protect on it from multiple fronts. And that can be pretty hard. Like, at least the nursing home care one, like, you can kind of see where that one's coming from. The lifestyle reduction can come in many forms. So good to get awareness of that one on the show today as well. All right, last but not least, one more big financial fear, Ryan, is when people, they look at working with an advisor or working with a professional, maybe it's a broker, some sort of financial professional, and there's this worry about getting taken advantage of by some advisor who maybe doesn't have your best interest in mind. Everybody's a little worried of the Bernie Madoff out there that's going to potentially ruin your financial life.
Well, and I think that's a real fear, and I think you should definitely do your homework. You need to find somebody that you trust. You need to find somebody that's a fiduciary. What that means is they're legally obligated to act in your best interest. And an easy one that I try to teach my clients or prospect is always have a third-party custodian. The whole Bernie Madoff thing happened because there wasn't multi-levels of oversight. So make sure that however you're investing your money, a third-party custodian's watching over that to make sure that the investments are actually happening, that the returns are actually there. But no, this is a real fear, and that's why I think when you're going to find an advisor, look who they work for, look at their track record, see if they know other people that have worked with them. But I will also say this, much like the CPA, you're going to get value. Hire a professional. Pilots are type A. They think they're really good at everything. And I think the biggest problem is you don't know what you don't know. And even Vanguard did a study on this, that if you work with an advisor, on average, you're going to have at least 3% more return on any given year. And I think that study was great that Vanguard did. If you want to see a copy of that study, we'll provide that for you. But no, you want to have a professional, and you need help. And just make sure you do your homework and find out to find out somebody that is a fee-based advisor and a fiduciary.
Any other fears you would want to throw onto the list here, Ryan, or call it a day at these 6?
Well, I don't have anything to add. There's always the fear of the unknown, but I find that I sleep a lot better at night when I know that I've covered these bases and I know that my family's taken care of. And we've been able to help a lot of pilots that have been working and killing themselves and worried about some of these fears. And when we can provide a solution where you can sleep easily at night, just by making small changes, it's a big difference. And I think that's why it's so important to work with an advisor. Reach out and we can talk to you about some of these fears and show you some solutions on how to make sure that that's not going to be a factor in your life.
Again, the way to reach out to talk a little bit more about solutions, address problems that might exist in your financial life, and these fears. Get to the bottom of these fears. Call or text Ryan at 843-475-3038 to begin those conversations. Again, 843-475-3038. Or go online to retirepilots.com, and we've put all of that in the description of today's show, so you can find it very easily. Ryan, thanks for all the help this week. Appreciate your guidance on the show and addressing some of these fears with us. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Walter. Appreciate you.
All All right, we appreciate you as well. It's Ryan Fleming, Walter Storholt. We'll see you next time on The Pilot's Advisor.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.